If you're watching this as a recording, then I'm also happy to turn around and answer questions. And you can drop me an email on richard.young@salesforce.com. So today's workforce has a large representation of digital natives who connect and interact in a whole different way. They've grown up with the internet, so that's all they know. These next generation professionals are the future of associations. And so engaging and delivering a service that they see as valuable to them is crucial to building loyalty and increasing retention for the future. These people are known as Generation Z, or for short, Gen Z. This is a breakdown of the different types of individuals by the different birth dates, as you can see. It comes from McKinsey & Company, so a good reputable source. Gen Z, you can see by the date of birth there, they've already come into our workplace. So if you're only just starting to talk to them now or thinking about how you're engaging with them, you need to play catch up now because they're here. You can see here I've got some diagrams around context, behavior, and consumption. So context is about how they interact and how they turn around and get these elements. Behavior will dive into a little bit more detail and is crucial to understand a bit more about them as an individual. And that you really need to understand and know who these members are or potential future members to bring together that engagement piece. Consumption. Now, some of the interesting things here in the consumption area, which we've not seen before, is the ethical element. So if we look at this in particular, of the McKinsey report, there's a percentage here, as you can see, where Gen Z respondents, if they came across these items, will stop buying and they will talk about this issue with other people. So it's actually really important to consider when you're building a personalized and valuable journey for these Gen Z, exactly what you're doing here. And if you can attach it to some greater good, they find that very interesting. So let's look at some of those behavior types that we just mentioned. Undefined ID. Well, this is really about treating them as individuals. They know that we break people into groups, and what they're trying to tell us here is, actually, I want a personalized experience. Now, here at Salesforce, we've talked about personalizing digital marketing for a long time. The Gen Z need to turn around and have that brought to the forefront. So when you're interacting with them, they need to know that you've personalized this content to them and it's relevant. They're also really good at communicating, communaholic as I've got here. So they will turn around and communicate with a lot of different people at the same time in multiple different ways. Being digital, they're used to this, social media and other forms. They're also used to taking this and being in dialogues with people. They certainly tend to avoid confrontation. So the dialogue is what they're interested in and understanding the whys that people are doing. And if we take that forward, they're pragmatic, they're realistic. So they understand what they can get from you and what you want in return. Being transparent with them really works for them because they can make judgments, they can make value decisions for themselves. So if you look at this across the bottom, what's really interesting is expressing individual truth, connecting through different truths, understanding different truths, and unveiling the truth behind all things. Ultimately, they want to know the whys behind everything, the truths that are there. So let's look at Jane. Here's Jane, a day in the life of Jane. Jane is the head of membership. She loves her job and making a difference to her membership, don't we all? The board has asked Jane about their youth engagement. Jane still does love her job. Youth engagement, of course, what are they asking here? That's a slightly difficult term. Quite often what that means is they're talking about Gen Z coming through to the membership community and where they're starting off, etc. So Gen Z information is critical to be able to provide this board report that Jane's looking for. So she needs to understand how you're communicating with them. She needs to understand what you're doing specifically with them and how many of your membership of that Gen Z coming through, and what does the tail end of that look like? So how many will be coming for you into the future? Certainly, that's going to be important for your membership growth in the coming years. Well, Jane checks out of her CRM. She found that lots of the information there across the board is out of date. And when asking some of her work colleagues what was going on, many of them just didn't use it. The user adoption of the CRM was quite low, and some of them just used Excel spreadsheets. And we all know the curse of Excel spreadsheets. The reports she did need to produce by IT would take 2 weeks to produce. That's a long time. That meant she's going to struggle with her segmentation of the data to be able to break this down into Gen Z and then see what's happening within them. There was also a lack of marketing visibility within the CRM as well. So she couldn't really see what's taking place, what communication happened, etc. How frequently did the communication take place? So because that marketing piece wasn't there, Jane decided to check out the marketing system. But the data didn't really match what was in the CRM. Some of the addresses were different, the telephone numbers, and other pieces of information. In some cases, the email addresses themselves weren't the same. What's more, when she checked the opt-in and opt-outs, when she was looking through the data, she did notice that they weren't the same in the CRM system. It's a compliance issue you've got right there. The segmentation in the marketing system was done on the member grade only. Sometimes a little bit more, but mostly around the member grade. This meant that the information going out to your members was generic, largely the same information that was taking place. So there's no special emphasis or ways of communicating taking place with any of the different cohorts of users that you had or members. None of the learning management system was available either. So it was a real case of having to dig down and try and work out what's going on. The LMS information would have told her exactly what pieces of CBD were being consumed and how and by which different cohorts of people. So she couldn't tell if the information worked for Gen Z or not. It was in yet another system. So Jane asked for help. She went to the IT team. The IT team showed her what the systems looked like and how they interconnected. Quite a few Excel spreadsheets there, and some of the processes for moving data from one to the other, it was really a manual process, so it didn't always get done or get done properly. Some of these information had been delegated to interns rather than actually doing it by the person that was supposed to. And some of the Excel spreadsheets, well, they just didn't connect to anything. Same with some of the apps as well. They just weren't good at talking to other systems, so they got left to do their own thing. This, of course, created a huge problem for Jane because there was no way she'd be able to consolidate the information to be able to see what they're doing with Gen Z without having a lot of manual work and going into each system and cross-referencing it to the others. That simply doesn't work. Jane's busy. So she asked IT, is there a better way here? Can we do this differently? IT said, yeah, sure. There are other systems. There is a system we could get that would allow you to do membership onboarding, where you could turn around and as an end user of the system, produce a report or dashboard within 5 minutes, be able to give you comprehensive member profiles and allow the member themselves to self-service, to admin their own records and update them as they needed to. And of course, all of this could flow together, whether it's a mobile app, whether it's an e-learning LMS system, whether it's your marketing connections, or whether it's the content actually on your website. All of it could be pulled together. So if Jane had a system like that, what she would be able to do is to have a unified view of the members. Everybody would have the same information. Everybody would understand what's going on. That would also mean that she'd be able to segment her data within a few clicks. So what looked at weeks worth of work would suddenly become an hour's worth of work. She'd be able to produce the reports and dashboards to put into a board report herself if she wanted to. And of course, this would allow us to really know the consumption from the Gen Z people, either in terms of the digital content, the LMS, in terms of event attendance, membership grades, etc., or where they were heading on their trajectories. All of this would allow her to create a strategy for engaging Gen Z. She just didn't have that today. Jane also knew that if she had a system like that, she'd be able to provide Gen Z with the mobile first experience that they were looking for. And it's important to remember that when we are looking at this, the data silos are going to create compliance issues for you. There's decreased engagement because you can't map across, and it makes it harder for Jane to do her job because she can't see everything, or she has to go through between multiple systems. This makes it impossible for the marketing team to actually turn around and produce personalized member journeys for them as well, because the information simply isn't there for them to build it on. And if you remember, or we look at the specifics, Gen Z spend 92% of their time online. 8 seconds is their average attention span, yet they consume 2 to 4 hours of video content per day. So that's a large amount of video content, but it tends to be in smaller pieces because their attention span isn't huge. So when you're producing CPD, it needs to be in bite-sized pieces for them to be able to consume it. They're using technology for over 10 hours a day. And if we talk about Gen Z and we go back to that McKinsey marketing report, 66% of them want to use communities that were created around causes and interests, not by economic backgrounds or educational levels. Now, when we apply that to the membership area, not necessarily by tier, but specialist interest groups, regional areas, etc., so they can build a real community. The other thing, of course, is they do become more engaged with you if they can see that you're working towards a position of greater good. And nearly every membership I know is working towards a greater good for their members. So engaging them in the why as well as the how is critical to get them to work with you well. So now we're going to take a short interview with Jacob Fabry. Jacob Fabry is the Chief Marketing Executive of Fontiva. Fontiva, if you're not aware of them, have a US and a UK office. It's one of the largest membership organizations in the world today, providing membership-specific software. They have customers throughout the UK, Europe, Australia, and the US. So, welcome, Jake. Good to have you on.
Rich, great to be here.
Good. So, Jake, first question. Jake, across all of your customers across the globe, can I ask you how they get to know their customers so that they can build these personalized journeys?
Oh, that's a good question. I think people often forget about the setup work that comes when those marketing journeys actually work. And first, let me say, I don't think there's a magic wand that you can wave for this. You have to do the hard work of engaging with all of your customers, your stakeholders, really, on a regular basis and progressively learn with each engagement. This is about finding nuggets of gold rather than one huge rock, right, at different times. So that's the way you get the good info. That's the way you build the full 360-degree view, not all at once, but little by little over time. And I think the most effective thing I see our customers doing on a regular basis to get to know their stakeholders is treating the relationship like a journey rather than a destination at first touch.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So if we think about value, as our abstract is about value, what's the value that the organizations are seeing to their members as a result of adopting this type of technology?
Well, sure, value is an important thing to think about because members are making decisions for where they're spending their money based on the value they're getting. And I think there's a lot of tangible instances where you can point to where real results and value for the member from technology you know, the boost in event registrations once your new software for registrations are installed, the boost in renewals once auto renewal is enabled, and, you know, making it as easy as possible on the member to engage with you and engage with other members. That's where the tangible value lies. But I think that, you know, it's easy to forget about the intangibles, so the connection members make, for example, in an online community that maybe wouldn't have been made without the organization facilitating that. The recent events, I think, have been like a wake-up call for many organizations that thought they had time to adjust their value and that they deliver to members and make changes to catch up to that digital transformation that we're all experiencing. But the global pandemic is really revealing many of the shortcomings that some of the softwares that people use. They're just not ready for the modern consumer expectations and for delivering value to your members. And so I think that value is being there for your stakeholders when and where they need it on their terms, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's about them, not about us. So when we think about this, what's the best example you've seen for engaging with Gen Z?
A great question and a very hot topic these days as well. So we're seeing this group Gen Z move into the workforce now. They have a lot of traits that differentiate them from previous generations, which has been widely written about and talked about, of course. But when it comes down to it, I think the main difference is the expectation that they don't have to tell you something twice. And what I mean by that is, you know, they were born in a digital age. Their entire lives have been filled with technology enhancing experiences for them, so they're used to it. You know, there's the things that we stereotype them on, like they would rather get a text than a phone call. Everybody kind of thinks that, right? Unless they tell you otherwise, of course. Then they expect you to know that forever and to never text them again, right? So they don't necessarily, you know, one of the trends I see, they don't necessarily see things where around privacy is concerning as much, as long as it's something that delivers value to them and makes things easier. And one example from a customer that I can share, that customer acknowledged that they, with their members, what they didn't know and what they needed to know to provide better service. And they framed it in a value statement of providing that service and providing them a more personalized service. And this led to a huge boost in responses from a Gen Z segment, with additional progressive profiling information that they were able to use. So I think that, you know, having that trust layer and being honest with them and upfront, and so what you're using the data for, makes them willing to provide it. So we see a lot of Gen Z roiling out of, you know, our interaction with them, and we're going to get to know them better over time. But I think that they're a very interesting group.
Cool. Thank you very much. That's it's an interesting point about the privacy and their perception of where it matters and does not matter. Thank you very much for your time, Jake. Please, everybody, thank Jacob Fontiva, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
That's great, Jake. Thank you very much for that, and I really do appreciate your insights. In particular, I like the one around the privacy and how certainly my generation we make more of it, and the Gen Z actually see it as a partial trade-off. And if you want to have that personalized service, then I'm going to have to give you some of this personal information. So that's interesting to see. Anyway. Thank you very much, everybody, for being on this webinar, and I really do appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to sit through all of this. Hopefully you've gained some insights and some practical elements you'll be able to take away, at least be able to start looking into this. Now, we do have our Q&A area, so you could certainly post questions there, or there's a specific breakout area for that as well. I'll be in those, so if you do have questions, do ask me any that you have. I'll also be able to share the McKinsey report and point you towards some of the blog posts there that they have for it's great additional information. Thank you very much. And if you do want to turn around and look a bit more into Salesforce, HeartSquare have very kindly actually just written a new white paper on it. Take a click and download. Thank you.